I'm Ashton Addison from Event Chain for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Jason Blick, the CEO of EQI Bank. Jason, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks, Ashton. It's a pleasure.
I'm really excited to dive into EQI Bank as a digital bank. I know you're doing some really innovative stuff, and I would love for you to just kick it off with a little bit of your background and your journey and how that led up to getting involved with starting EQI.
Thanks, Ashton. So I qualified as a British solicitor many years ago, a long time ago now, and quickly moved into financial services. So I started to run my own bank in 2006 and have run a series of financial institutions since then that have rapidly scaled and have usually done extremely well. So more recently, we formed EQIBank in 2015 with an unbelievable team with about 300 years experience of running some of the major big banks around the world.
Wow, that's awesome. And now, as the first, one of the first digital banks, you're really trying to switch up the traditional financial industry, adding in more blockchain and even decentralized finance. And I want to go into those details, but could you start with just a high-level overview of EQIBank?
So we started EQIBank in 2015, and we had one specific objective: to become the world's first global digital bank. There are some other digital banks out there, and there's some great banks as well that focus on the retail market, but we had the objective to provide digital banking services to 180 countries around the world. And because we have such an experienced team, we were very familiar with some of the problems and legacy issues facing the big banks, and many which have not been addressed.
Definitely, and I wanted to touch on that. And I know that there's a lot of issues in traditional financial industry that still need to be solved. But maybe you could touch on what some of the main issues that you saw that you were looking to pinpoint and solve when you first started EQIBank.
So yes, the banking industry has a series of legacy problems, and in our industry, in the crypto fintech space, we usually find banks reluctant to even deal with us. So that's been a huge problem. We only saw a couple of weeks ago HSBC highlight that they were going to close accounts if clients were purchasing coin-based public stock. So not crypto, the actual publicly traded stock. So that shows you the disconnect, particularly in our industry. And that filters through all the way through these monolithic traditional big banks, old legacy technology that often goes back to the 1980s and COBOL. Many carry a lot of risk on their balance sheet. In that sense, we, for example, as EQIBank, we syndicate our loans to make sure we have the very best stress test ratio. Many big banks obviously have massive overheads. They have all of these branches, they have all of this real estate, and they have really expensive cash handling services. And the question is really whether a lot of this is necessary, especially if you're a global business client. And then, of course, everybody makes mention of too many fees and how complex big banks are to deal with, especially if you're in an innovative industry or you have interests in a variety of countries. So these are problems that were really worth solving.
Definitely, a lot of great points there, Jason. And yeah, that is, the ability to have such a lightweight infrastructure. Now, I was looking at some of these cryptocurrency exchanges versus some of the traditional banks. They seem to have 10% or less of the employees, and the profit margins are higher, and they're actually making more profit than the banks just because of all this legacy infrastructure that they have had to have built up upon the past decades and decades. Do you see that as one of the competitive advantages in being a digital bank, in that you started with newer technology and you're able to service more globally, and with the increased globalization, not having to have all of that overhead that the banks have, and being able to provide services for cheaper because you don't have to pay overhead costs?
You're absolutely right. If you look at some of the big banks, and it's best we don't name them, but some of the bigger banks have cost-to-income ratios exceeding 80 and in some instances 90%. So the actual cost of running these massive monolithic structures is extremely difficult. And who's paying for that? We're paying for that, Ashton. That's filtered through in fees, etc. They're also in a very difficult position. Many of these big banks look at their IT spend, look at the footprint they have from technology, and it is literally an impossible job to recreate all of that architecture. So we did things a little differently. EQIBank is designed to replace the need for multiple complex relationships. So we have functionality enabling clients to bank with us, exchange crypto, borrow money, have custody services for treasuries, bonds, and crypto, do wealth management, asset management, etc., all in one place. And because we're digital only, our cost-to-income ratio is just a fraction of those big banks. And as a result of that, we're able to pass on those cost savings to our clients across 180 countries around the world. So we have more coverage than any other digital bank right now. And that's also reflected on our onboarding as well. Sometimes it's very difficult to open an account with a big bank. Lots of paperwork, lots of explanations about what you're doing. And if they don't understand the industry, it can be a 60, 70-day onboarding process, even if you can onboard in the first instance. For EQIBank, we decided that was a major problem from the beginning, and we have digital onboarding with facial recognition, etc. So clients can onboard anywhere in the world, 24/7, and have really fast onboarding, great transparent fees. I often joke, Ashton, that in essence we're a global financial services supermarket, and we hope to meet all of our clients' needs just in one ecosystem.
Definitely, and that's great to hear, Jason. Thank you for those points. And one of the factors that I was looking into EQIBank is that there's this banking as a service, BaaS, which is quite interesting and makes me think of democratizing more access to these kind of banking services. Can you just talk about that banking as a service? How big is that in the role of EQIBank, and does that just allow any other regulated players to help grow this ecosystem outwards?
Absolutely. So for many people, they feel as if working with their bank is very much a one-way street. You park your money with the bank uses it to lend to other people, etc. You obviously recover your money as and when you need it, but you don't fundamentally profit from that relationship, and it's quite unusual in that regard now. So we started banking as a service in 2020. It was an unbelievable success, and basically what it means is client can white label our bank license, our technology, our platform, our correspondence, and provide financial services in their brand to their clients. So we've already delivered that to a host of clients who have managed to get enormous scale and drive new lines of revenue. So many of these guys may have a large client base, telco, airline, crypto exchange. So they're obviously always looking for ways to drive new lines of business and new revenue. If you can add banking on top of that, you've got the captive audience, you've got a fantastic digital bank that's going to let you white label their products and services. It really is a phenomenal way to drive new revenue and partner with a bank for the first time probably ever.
Very cool. And you mentioned having democratized access to this banking as a service. You're actually already servicing 180 countries, which is incredible. Can you talk about the licensing, the regulatory environment, having different jurisdictions, and did EQIBank have to go through a lot of hurdles to get this global access?
So the regulatory position for any financial services company is always complex, and for a bank even more so. So on average, there are about 200 to 500 applications every year for a banking license in our jurisdiction, and only 2 have been approved in the last couple of years. It usually takes 4 to 5 years to build out a banking infrastructure, get the necessary licenses, work with the correspondents, etc. And basically there's 2 forms of license in the banking world. You can take an onshore license, for example, in the United States or in the UK or in Europe, and focus on that domestic client base. Or you can secure a global, often referred to as an offshore license, which enables you to provide coverage across the world, but does have some restrictions in terms of how you can market and onboard clients in a national environment. But one of the things our clients constantly say is that they don't want the complex nature of having 5 or 6 relationships with national banks. They may have an operation in the US, in South America, and in the UK, in Japan, and they're often dealing with multiple banks across multiple jurisdictions, creating, at the very least, a lot of paperwork. So working with a global bank means that you only need one relationship for all of the countries in which you operate or seek to operate. So that's one of the distinct advantages with our global approach and our global license.
Definitely, and I think that's the right approach, especially just with the globalization and banking the unbanked and getting people that are in underdeveloped worlds and underbanked countries to get access to this digital bank. So I'm really liking this, and I'm excited to see how it plays out as these DeFi and just the decentralized finance world just continues to grow and merge into what will be the new finance. So, and I was looking into EQIBank's recent work, and I saw that you recently closed a $12.5 million fundraising. So congratulations on that, first of all. That's amazing. And now with that raise closed, what are the next steps for you and your team in executing?
So again, because of the cost of income ratios of a digital bank, you can do a great deal with very little, and clients and investors prefer and like that. So we already have a phenomenal app and banking system, etc., but we're really getting ready for massive scale. We already have demand probably carrying us through until the early part of next year, as we sit here today. So we're launching a new core banking system, an amazing new app which enables you to go from crypto to normal fiat currencies, and then to credit cards, to loans, to asset management, to OTC on one app, which is phenomenal. We are looking at moving onshore as well to provide additional coverage and additional services to some of our onshore clients, and we're moving forward with the launch of our own crypto exchange platform. So that's tremendously exciting. We are, I think, the only bank in the world that's actually moving in that direction, and I think it's going to be an amazing addition to the active and growing crypto community. So in addition to that raise, we also did a phenomenal raise in the DeFi space, which has given rise to an altogether new audience for the bank.
Yeah, well, that's really exciting, and I didn't know you were developing a cryptocurrency exchange. I'm really excited to see how that comes to fruition. But I was researching into the decentralized finance route that EQIBank is taking with DeFi, because that has just exploded throughout 2020. Over 30 to 40 times multiples of the amount of capital that's being locked into these decentralized protocols and the future of decentralized exchanges and trading. Can you talk about the strategy that you took within the DeFi route, and what kind of services you're looking to provide, or how you're looking to expand within DeFi?
We started to look at DeFi 3 years ago, and then more solidly around 2 years ago. We're a huge proponent of the DeFi industry. We believe it's an amazing way to democratize finance and democratize banking, frankly, across the world. But many people have been a bit concerned about DeFi, especially institutions, wealth managers, family offices, etc., because first of all, they don't understand it. And in many instances, a lot of the platforms are not licensed or regulated. So we have a DeFi platform that is powered by a licensed and regulated bank, which people are tremendously excited about. And we're launching 4 products in June, and the 4 products are an interest rate swap product, a derivative product designed to really disrupt the $500 trillion industry around that derivative product set. And we also have some great lending products allowing our clients to lend and borrow amongst themselves. So they can do fixed term products, fixed rate products, variable rate products, and we have a yield aggregator, which basically enables clients to get a stakehold in that really interesting farming environment. So we are the first bank to power a DeFi platform. It's been an unbelievable success, and we're a big advocate of continuing to invest in that sector and support that sector.
Definitely. That's really exciting, and I think it's a great route, and because it is still, even though it's grown exponentially in the last year, it is still so early on, and there's just so many more millions and upon millions of people to be onboarded into the ecosystem. So I'm looking forward to seeing how EQIBank grows out and takes the next steps. And as you continue to grow, what are some of the challenges that you foresee having to overcome to get to more widespread adoption and to grow to these tens of millions or hundreds of millions of customers?
Well, we expect to have about $1 billion AUM by the end of the year. And one of the major issues to constantly monitor is obviously compliance. Banks and sensible DeFi organizations are really just large compliance organizations that constantly have to ensure compliance with KYC, AML, and obviously underlying banking legislation and legislation. So what we're looking for in the DeFi space specifically is certainty. There has to be a raft of new legislation, especially from the EU and the US, which enables us to scale this incredible sector with the certainty of legislation and regulation behind it. Of course, there are a series of countries that are providing sandboxes for this space, and sandboxes have a part to play. But beyond that, we need absolute solidity, we need guidance, we need guidelines. And that's going to really drive capital markets and public monies into DeFi. At the end of the day, a decent DeFi platform can provide anything north of 5 to 10% return on an annual basis on stablecoins, whereas traditional banks are obviously only able to offer between 0 and 2%, and if it's on the euro, it's a negative interest rate. So it's naive for banks not to consider DeFi as a very viable solution to continue to not only protect their client base, but further their profitability and further their ability to pass on discounts and positive returns for their client base. So that's one of the major challenges, making sure that the regulatory environment is fit for purpose. And that in itself will drive an entirely new fintech and banking industry, which, as you say, has grown exponentially. If we really look at it, it's grown 5,000% market cap over the last 12 months. And the user numbers are continuing to grow extraordinarily on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and I completely agree. The way that it's developed and the return difference between traditional finance, and especially with the euros, as you mentioned, is significant for these players to not be looking at this and figuring out how to integrate it into traditional finance. But I think your digital bank's definitely going to have a leg up without having that overhead and the infrastructure. And I'm excited to see throughout the rest of 2021 and beyond how quickly more new entrants come into the space. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the DeFi ecosystem expands within EQIBank as well. And for the viewers that are looking to learn more about the services that EQIBank has as a digital bank, and also just the DeFi part, and to get involved with the communities, what's the best way for them to learn more?
People are very welcome to reach out to us at www.equibank.com, which is obviously the core banking structure, and people can onboard and can get used to what we do and provide, etc., anywhere in the world. And for our DeFi platform, it's www.equifi.com, and you'll get a great understanding of the products and services we can provide clients in the DeFi community. And both those structures are interlinked, so people can move between the DeFi community and the traditional banking community in a really seamless way, which we feel is truly unique.
Definitely, and that's great to hear, and thank you so much for that, Jason. I will leave those links in the description box below for the viewers. All the best with EQIBank moving forward. I will be watching as the DeFi ecosystem grows and EQIBank's part in it continues to grow, and let's follow up in the near future.
Ashton, thank you for your time.